second to start. I might edit this out. I might not.
Let's go.
All right, welcome everybody. I am Syr Talon of Dirty Marion. This is Squire Frederick, and I will be teaching you about the lefty hip wrap today. So the first aspect of the lefty hip wrap is knowing how to throw a wrap shot. It's really hard to throw a lefty hip wrap. Don't know how to throw a wrap. There are two kinds of wraps in our sport. There's a full wrap and a flat wrap. So what makes a wrap shot? You have your thumb, throw a full wrap, your thumb's up top, turns all the way to the side. All right. What makes it a flat wrap is when instead of going all the way here to my thumb, it's in a completely different area from where it started, right? Pointed. We have to just kind of cheat that and cut that line halfway there. A lot of people think, oh, you just turn your wrist and it'll make the shot. No. As I'm going to throw my shot, I turn my elbow out, not my wrist. So you focus on turning your elbow out, it just happens, right? For a full wrap, just boom. If you focus on turning just your wrist out, you can turn your wrist, but not get your elbow turned all the way out, and it won't make like the actual wrap shot. It won't go all the way around what you're thinking. For a flat wrap, instead of turning your elbow all the way out like this, we kind of just turn it in slightly. So Frederick here puts the sword up. So instead of going all the way around, right, for a full wrap, a flat wrap cuts that angle. It's between a chop and a full wrap, right? So that's how we throw a wrap shot. That's the most important part of throwing the lefty hip wrap is it needs to be a wrap. Yes, you can lefty chop people and stuff like that, but it's, it's not the same. The meme isn't there, and it's not as funny. All right. So the lefty hip wrap. So what makes the lefty hip wrap a lefty hip wrap? There are two main kinds of lefty hip wraps. When a lefty walks up to you and hip wraps you, all right, let's just congratulations, you've done the lefty hip wrap. The other one is for righties. All right, you're like, how can a righty throw a lefty hip wrap? Well, when a righty walks up to a lefty and hits them in the hip with a wrap shot, they have lefty hip wrap the lefty. Like that's just what it is. That is what the lefty hip wrap is. All right. So those are the two kinds of lefty hip wraps. Those are the most important parts. So how do we use this, right? Like how do we go about doing this? So you can target other things with the lefty hip wrap. All right. The easiest setup that I have found with a lefty hip wrap is to walk up to somebody, we're fighting, we're doing things, and then just to hit them, because they're like, oh my God, you're left-handed. I'm like, yeah, that only works like once. Sometimes, like even in highest tier fighters, you're on the ditch line, you're just chilling, doing some spars, you're like, oh, you're left-handed, you fucker, like, oh man, curses. All right, so from there, we have to start getting a little bit tricky. All right, people start to guard their hips more. They keep their hand down, and that's not working anymore. You can target other things with the lefty hip wrap, and you're like, but how is that a hip wrap then, Talon? The lefty hip wrap isn't always what kills you, but it is always what gets you killed. You are so worried about, man, I need the lefty hip wrap to kill this guy. I'm like, no. All right, I can throw something that looks like the lefty hip wrap and then hit Frederick in the arm. And then now he doesn't have an arm anymore, and then I can just hit him again, right?
Lefty hip wrap him.
So like even with shields and stuff like this. So he's got his shield, he's righty, it's amazing and stuff like that. I'm like, oh man, I can't really see the shoulder, the high cross here, all this other cool stuff. Sometimes we can just arms, or you can punch people's shields. And when you punch people's shields, they get back. There's a lot of space that opens up right here. So like turn this way. Yep. If I punch your shield, a lot of space opens up. You just hit them. Some people, my favorite way to do it actually, is to throw at people's legs, and then as they're going down, hit them in the hip because they're just gonna sit down. You throw it in the exact same spot. Really weird, really confusing. And the loop as well. So like I posted a video earlier about Paulo painting the fence, so you just go around people, stuff like that. So sometimes you just, things that happen, you hip wrap. You're like, man, this is why. And I'm like, I plan to live my whole life with lefty hip wrap. I got a million ways to throw it. Sometimes you just fake it really, really hard. You come super low, they come down. And you high cross them. So there's 1,000 ways to throw it. you can always just throw it deeper. I learned this from Syr Braun of Terror. We call him Syr Braun of Terror. Syr Braun of the Sons of Terror. We call him Pretty Braun.
Yeah.
If you just throw it deeper, it also works. So you're like, man, they're blocking my shot. It's crazy. What if I just reach in there ever so slightly? All right. And the silliest thing that I've ever done is you get into this range right here, and you're like, what do I do here? So here, you have to turn this way, and then you actually hit them in the other hip with it.
Oh,
All right.
Isn't that just a hook?
You start hitting people in the back and the other butt, and they're like, why? And I'm like, well, I wanted to throw deep, and you stepped in is probably the most common way, and you just end up throwing that far back, all right? And if somebody blocks that, well, I mean, I don't know, you should have showed up to it.
Yeah, go home.
But yeah, you can target multiple different areas. You can fake the lefty hip wrap. The lefty hip wrap is one of the most dangerous tools in a lefty's arsenal, because you'll be a couple fights into a tournament or whatever. Like I said, people get used to fighting. You'll have thrown it on the first try, on the first fight, and won your fight. It felt great. And then on the 10th fight, we're sparring, other things have happened, so on and so forth. And then you're like, I wonder if they forgot. All right, like I said, my favorite thing to do in a dish line is just walk up to people and just say you're a lefty. And if they look at you like, so? Right in the hip, they're like, oh, man. It's like that, huh?
It is like that.
So yeah, there's that there. Oh man, I have to have this stuff written down. It's unbelievably cold outside for all of our viewers at home. Anyone watching from Florida.
It is for viewers at home just over 40, which is the point at which we decide we don't do practice.
Yeah.
So we were barely in the having practice range.
So those were some like silly things. So how do we actually set this up? Like how do I actually set up a lefty hip wrap? So the most common thing you're going to be fighting against is like sword and board for this. It's where it's most commonly known. But a lot of this stuff can work for two stick and stuff as well. I'll show you some two stick setups as well. So I lied. We'll start with single sword. So two single sword, two sword and board, two this. So single sword, one of my favorite things to do is to attack the opposite side altogether, right? So if I attack wholesale on this side, and then not so much hit the arm, but if I attack on this side, you're probably going to do well with your sword. You're probably going to try to just swing at me outright. Do I block you out there? Hip wrap, dope. If he goes to block from this side though, if he goes to swing out this way, yep, fake hip wrap. All right, cool, we did it. Another thing is to just chop at people's arms like outside, so that people, any person who raises their guard up has died, all right? If at any point in time I can get somebody to lift their arm, yes, we're in there, all right? A lot of people go for hand blocks as well, so they'll like do this and then try to block with the other hand. Yeah, try to do stuff like that, and that's what the deep one's for, because you're like, oh man, I meant to hit you in the body, but I guess you're gonna hand block. Cool, all right? We can't just reach for it. You can't just step into people. I promise you, you can fight in kissing range and still win.
That's when you hit them in the butt.
Exactly, directly in the butt. Or the other hip if you want to be like fancy with that. So you can open up with chops, stuff like that, get them to raise their hand. Booyah, you can attack the other side of their body and then come around to hit the other side. So, board. And these are just to hit with the hip wrap, not even setups to like use it to kill people. Board, one of the simplest things is to like trick people into believing you're going to high cross them. So let's say you've killed them with the lefty hip wrap once already, and you're like, I want to do it again, but they're wary to the idea. So if you come down, you come up, they come up, right? And like even Frederick's exaggerating for the sake of like camera and stuff like that. Even if they were to do stuff like, man, I'm gonna leave my hand down but take my shield to go up, that's fine. I'm gonna step in like this and hit them that way. And one of my favorite things to do ever, all right, is while fighting somebody and they're guarded up, is to just step to their shield side. So as they turn their body and shield, it comes with them, and you just hit them anyways because they turn their hip into the hip wrap. So you step to this side and throw, and as they turn, they just like, oh, I just let you do it to me, right? So two stick, you don't need two stick. So two stick versus board, quite easy as well. So a lot of people are like, oh man, the hip wrap is actually, I don't use the hip wrap to kill people in board a whole lot, but I do try to like convince them that this is gonna hit them on their board side. So I'll do a lot of like ha ha ha. And they're like, why is it like this, right? Or if you boom, and then I'm sorry.
Damn.
So I'll strike the hand down here and then pin the sword and then just wrap around them anyways. Their shield can't cross their arm unless they want to get like real weird with it. And they're like, what am I supposed to do about this nonsense?
Get Lefty Hip Wrap about it.
Get Lefty Hip Wrap about it. So the most underrated Lefty Hip Wrap variant is the Lefty Hip Stab. No one think like it doesn't happen too often. It works a little bit better with shorter swords and things of that nature. So like I said, Lefty Hip Wrap is coming around, right? And the Lefty Hip Stab also isn't really a hip stab, but it has a catchier name than Lefty Stab Wrap thing. Like it's just not Lefty Wrap Stab doesn't sound as nice. But yeah, it's the same thing after I've done whatever, except I'm going to throw like short outside and step in here. That's it. And so if people are guarding their hands down a lot like this, you can throw out and step in there as well. Please do not, and then stab your friends in the face. Okay, just don't do that. Avoid stabbing people in the face. But even as I throw, like the other variant of the Lefty Hip Wrap is to throw like really low down here. This is how you end up stabbing people in the jump. You just throw and step in like that.
And that's why you wear a cup.
And that's why you wear a cup. Wear a cup. It's important. Gloves, cups, all of it. So the Lefty Stab variant is, the Lefty Hip Stab is like the most underrated variant of the Lefty Hip Wrap. You can Lefty Hip Wrap with other weapons. It's important that you do so. So we'll start with the red. Blade Master Fox calls this the Big Wrap. And for a lot of people, if you are right-handed, all right, the easiest way that I found to do this, because you're like, how do I just throw a wrap shot? A lot of red fighters don't know how to throw wrap shots because it's a blue shot and they don't really do it. But it's the same principle, all right? I'm just gonna take my sword, I'm swinging for a chop like this, so I'm gonna turn the elbow out. Congratulations, you have thrown the big move. So one of my most common ways to throw this is I'll attack up here. People will swing into us. Hip wrap. And they're like, oh, I got hip wrap 5 feet away. And I'm like, it do be like that. Right? I have seen Fane do it with an 8-foot glaive. No excuses. No excuses. Lord. All right, 8-foot glaive. Blade Master Fane just being like, oh man, I did it here. And I'm like, why? It blew my mind on camera. I was not understanding it. You can do it the other way. All right, and it's funny still. So like, from our left-handed fighters, all right, everyone in my Blade Master house is a left-handed fighter but me. But same principle, all right, you can just attack the sword side, and as they're like, oh man, I'm gonna put my shield up, or if I'm doing whatever, make them cry about it. I would cry about it, honestly. Yeah. I think I'll just retire after that point. And with the red sword, it's even funnier, as if they step in and you like hit them all the way in the back on the other side of the planet. Or if I had like a really, really silly thing to do, like if people have got teammates and stuff, I'd be fighting this person and then I'll just hit their friend over here. They're like, why is life like this? And I'm like, someone gave me a big sword.
I was gonna say with an 8-foot glaive, you could go around the back and hit the guy next to him.
Yeah, reach around, hit the person next to them.
You is not you. You is Fane or Flame. You is a nameable number of people.
So we have the flail as well. People are like, Talon, the flail already auto wraps. Why does it need the whatever? Then yeah, just hit him in the hip and congratulations, you cheated and did the hip wrap. It's the funny part. But if you wrap with the flail on top of it, it's just even sillier. So let's say Frederick puts his shield all the way over here. And you're like, oh man, this is getting past it. Or this isn't getting past. It's like hitting the edge of the shield. But if I wrap, fuck you. All right? Imagine 2 hinges, one being my elbow. Really hard to deal with, actually, for people who do it. And funny enough, even as a righty, here, we're gonna swap places. Even as a righty, on the shield side, you're like, oh man, it's not getting around. All right, cool. What if I just reach all the way around your board? What are you supposed to do about that? Silliest thing you can do. Flails are funny. Yeah. Learn to block them and then kill them.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have the quarterstaff as well. Woo! Like, so how are you supposed to do it with the quarterstaff? It's the same as with the red, really. So avoid, if you're going to do it, avoid looking silly and being like, oh, I'm gonna wrap this person, and then like hitting yourself with the Technically it counts and you die, and you know, so then I call you out. But you just choke down a little bit, and we're gonna go back to the side for the hip wrap. Same thing with the quarterstaff, all right? You can as well attempt to be like, you know, if you got like a really well-made quarterstaff, and the silliest thing you can do with the quarterstaff is fake the hip wrap. Oh God, see,
You're on the
already
wrong
hit
You're
my
on the wrong side.
It's made to do that. You just there you go.
Yeah, see, specialty make all of your weapons. You can go for the shot, miss it, and then hit somebody in the hip that way. It's really, really silly. The stab also works with the quarterstaff. If you're like, man, this person's really far out, we're blocking all of these moves, and I just step in and stab
And that's why
somebody.
you wear a cup.
That's important. The silliest version of that is if somehow, some way, you can miss, do all that, and go for the stab. But like that one's legendary. I've never seen it done. It's mythical. If you do it, catch it on camera. I'll give you money.
Put a bounty on the shot.
And our final version is with the spear. So you take the spear and you don't do it. Just stop. Actually, don't wrap your spear out at people. Don't swing it out in any crazy ass way. Unfortunately, with the spear, it's drastically unsafe, and maybe just don't. Take your sidearm out, all right, and then just hip wrap them one time. All right, one of the funniest things to ever do to somebody is like, oh my God, they're pushing up through with my spear, and I've got to do whatever, and he's pushing in, and you're like, what happened to me? And I'm like, oh yeah, you just stopped fighting whenever you got past the spear tip. So please do not swing your spear. It's a bad idea.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions?
Can you do the stab with the spear, the wrap stab?
So the difficulty of it is, as we said earlier, if I was gonna do this with any safe manner, I would need to choke up, but like the wrap aspect is weird.
It's the bad
So
parts of a
if you
quarterstaff.
do it normally, it just and like that might hurt more if you're just like and double over. I'll laugh at you. If you can like, and like I said, the issue is like, oh man, I'm gonna swing the spear at somebody. All of this effort put in, like I cleaved my teammates and some more stuff, and then just to like slide it all the way in and do whatever. The most I've ever seen is someone have it out here, and Frederick's looking off that way because the line is whatever. And I've seen people turn in and stab like with one hand. I am not a spearman. I won a tournament one time. That does not mean I'm good at this. So, is it possible? Yes. Should you do it? No. You could do it. Like the work is all there. It was just as a herald, as a marshal, I would be like, that's crazy cool thing you just did. Sit down for 3 fights.
Yeah.
As I watched you swing your spear.
If you swing your spear, I'm telling you to sit down.
It's what we call a forbidden technique.
Yeah.
You are
It is the
so
forbidden
dead,
spear
I'm so
technique.
sorry.
It might work better with the javelin. You might convince people that with a shorter
And then you
spear,
throw it at them.
it's like funnier. Oh, I should have brought a
It's just
javelin.
a
You're right. It
throw.
would have been hilarious to
wrap
shot the
rock.
javelin and just let it go.
I've got a rock.
How do you?
I think the lefty hip wrap with the rock
rock.
is just called a curveball in baseball, actually.
Let it right into your head.
I think we make Kib teach that class.
Yeah, we
You
do.
just throw the rock with the other hand. Is there a major difference if you're doing lefty v lefty?
If you're doing it lefty v left, so yeah, I'm happy you asked because I actually meant to say something about this. So lefty v lefty, the major difference is what you're trying to trick. So normally righty v righty, I'm trying to trick the sword. Lefty v lefty, I'm trying to trick the shield. So it's going to be a difference in how I throw it. It depends. So I like to throw the lefty hip wrap actually at like this 45 angle, because like as you can see here, I'm already missing half of the shield, and then I turn my hand and it's its own thing. But if I can convince Frederick at any point in time by doing stuff like chops up here to lift his shield up, same maneuver, same thing. And when you lefty hip wrap a lefty, they feel like really weird about it, because they're like, oh, that's what that's like.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing to people.
Yeah.
That's evil.
What if they cock the shield so they're blocking the shoulder and they got that extra arm out? Is there a way to get around that part?
So you're saying that like if he just this right here?
No,
so,
like he turns it. Yeah, like that.
So with the way that I do it, with this point not being here, it makes my life easier. here. So instead of coming around the horizontal,
Yeah.
I would come
Go
up at this
up.
45 here, right?
Gotcha.
And I would throw it in. So even if he leaves his shield the exact same way, like heaters are cool, all right? Round shields and heaters have this exact same like opening, squares for life. Anyways, so that like you can, here. Also, if you get your hand past whatever you're wrapping, you hit them. That's just free. All right. If my hand is even with your shield when this shot happens, you lose. If my hand is ever so slightly here, like you might get in the way. But the closer your hand is to the thing that you're trying to get around, the more likely you are to hit the individual with that. Like even with the red, if people close in and stuff like that, and I'm like, man, I really need to go for the big shield shot. If he's this close as I go to do the wrap, he has no choice. So my most trusted hip wrap is, oh man, they're aggressing on me. You're just there. Do you have any other fun questions?
Have we already gone over defense against the Lefty Hip Wrap when you're a right-handed
fine.
fighter?
I'll teach you how to block it.
Yeah!
That wasn't the description was how to
Only
attack, no defense.
So I guess we don't need swords for this. I'm sorry. So the easiest way to block the lefty hip wrap is whenever you're fighting a lefty, you want a lower guard. So a lot of people practice this guard here, which is a solid guard. All right, they have a high guard up here. If he, I'll be righty for this. So take this guard. So high guard up here. The body is far away. All right. If I try to step in and hit the body, he has free lane to hit me. This guards the shoulders, and us being this far means that like his reverse shoulder, his shoulder back there isn't as far away. Against the lefty, yes, it's the same principle, but like smart lefties will just it's easier to swing under here. Also, because this hand isn't there, if he's not like quick on the draw, I can maybe like, if I can trick this hand at all, just get a free hit to there. So I generally tell people, if you're gonna fight a lefty, you can take the same out stance, but you're gonna turn your hand down. All right, I can still keep it horizontal, I can keep it flat or whatever, but this means it's an auto guard, like it's just there. So with shields, right? My stance can be here because your hand needs to be lower. A lot of people, when they do righty on righty, their hand is up here to block the high cross. And that's dope. That's why I walk up to people and ask them, tell them I'm a lefty. And they're like, I don't get what that means. And I'm like, yeah. So having a hand down here is the like simplest way to do it, because your hand is just there to guard you. You're like, well, what if I high cross, man? I'm like, well, your shield is there to guard you, so you should just be fine. That is the simplest way to guard from the opening of lefty hip shots. You can open with the lefty hip wrap. Unlike a leg shot, all right, I still wouldn't suggest doing that, but you can open with the lefty hip wrap. All right, I do it all the time. It's silly as hell.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you for coming to my class today on the lefty hip wrap. It's an amazing shot. Best shot in the game.
Best shot in the game.
Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, they're lying.
Best shot in the game.
Thank you all.
You still have 2.5 more hours of class.
Hell no.